The beginning of this show does seem to have some technical troubles, but it does get better on its own somehow later on.
And we're live.
Well, hello lurkers and bots. It is 2020-10-11. This is episode 26. I've got a bit of a minor change to my setup. It's going to make things a little bit difficult for me. So I have been talking in the past about the problems of needing to hear my own voice and the problems of having headphones on and stuff like this. I think I'm actually hearing the clicks of my headphones already when I speak. Oh, I might have to abort and stop this maybe for next segment. Wow. Okay. So what I got the parts for is to take my current microphone and dangle it down a little bit further so that I can plug in monitor headphones. Now the problem is the headphones that I have right now, they are not they're not monitor quality headphones, so they creak. I'm gonna demonstrate that right now. Now it's such a big problem that when I talk, my jaw moves, and these are circumaural, so they're around the ears, and some of the components rest on my jaw, and all kinds of surfaces in my head that move around a little bit. And just that tiny bit, I can hear the creaking. I don't know if the microphone's going to be sensitive enough for hearing that. I suspect it will be, because the other thing that I'm doing is I'm leaning in a lot closer. So I don't think I'm going to be able to win for this. So you can see me. I'm turning my head right now, and now I'm actually facing. So there should be a volume difference for stuff like that. So there's all kinds of little nuances that I'm tinkering with. And Minion decided to not really particularly be available to do testing, so this is kind of the live testing. So anyway, I always love opening with a little bit of administrivia. Speaking of Minion, when we were doing last show, I mentioned that it's getting very hard to get you to talk about anything ever. And you occasionally have these odd stories and stuff. I mean, I guess we can push you in the direction of becoming more and more interesting. So what I asked is that maybe if you could write down something that's interesting that you're thinking about, or that you're doing, that you've heard about, that you want to share, that if you can write down something like a point every day, that way we can come into the podcast and we can bring those things up, and maybe you can engage me on those things, get some opinions, some commentary, this kind of stuff. Has anything been happening with you? Did you actually write down any points?
No, that completely eluded me.
You totally forgot.
I completely forgot.
Okay, well, how do we link from the to-do list concept to actually pursuing any of it? So one of the things that people do is I've talked about in my own time, and I've talked about off podcasts and stuff like this, the notion of carrying a notepad, and that it's not so much that you can use that to write down all your thoughts and notes and stuff. There's a problem of taking those notes and putting them where they belong, like sorting them, figuring out their priority, because there's a lot of notes that you can take that would be, they're not useful tomorrow, but they're things you don't want to forget. That's why you write them down. Now, if you're a writer like me, so I've been taking notes occasionally when I've got ideas that pop into my head. So I'll pace around in my kitchen. Now I'm like, just have to reach for the nearest piece of paper and write down some thoughts. And yeah, the trick is to make sure that you're articulate enough with your notes that you can, your future self will understand you. But that aside. The problem is, well, how do you make a to-do list, and how do you actually follow up on it? Well, it's just notes somewhere, right? And they could stay in your pocket, or you could have them in a journal or something like that. What my recommendation is every morning, don't get up and rush out of bed. It's really weird. So when you're in bed, well, people, when they're in bed, they don't want to leave bed, but you jar yourself awake with an alarm half the time, and you have to rush. The idea of getting out of bed is hurling yourself out of bed headlong into your day, which is awful. Again, the morning lark thing, I'm telling you. But if what you can do is set your alarm a little bit earlier, And it's still going to shock you awake, fine, okay. But if you get up like 5 minutes earlier, but don't get up. So you wake up, you sit in bed cross-legged, or your feet dangling off the edge of your bed or whatever, then reach for your dream journal or your diary or your whatever and review what you had written down for yourself. So your past self had some advice for you to look at, for you to think about. Now that past self might have built a to-do list for you. And to-do lists are tyrannical. So sometimes you put things down when you've got appointments. And I'm of the opinion that it's a character quality to make good on all of your promises. And the thing is, you should not have that relationship with yourself unless you really know that you're the sort. Because some people, they have that moment of clarity. They figure their stuff out. They write their to-do lists. They really envision the future for themselves, and it might be a very good future for them, for their future self, but their future self is going to have this great big obligation handed. And you will not appreciate your past self being so arrogant as to foist this on you. So if you create a to-do list, you have to make sure that it's already been prioritized so that your future self only sees the stuff that is actually interesting and important. And so when you wake up, the stuff that you should be reading is stuff that should already have been prepared for you. Prepared in a sense like your past self prepares a version for maybe it's a fuzzy-headed version, the morning version of you. You know you. And so when you wake up, don't get out of bed. Just get this thing and read it. And see if you agree with self or not. And remember, it's not meant to be tyrannical. There are some appointments maybe that are there. But there's a lot of stuff that's going to be obvious. Sometimes you want to write down the obvious points because they're that important. But it needs to be a very clear list. So you can omit a lot of stuff just to keep it less oppressive. If it's a big wall of text, it's going to be intimidating. Okay, so you get out of bed, you've got these suggestions from your past self. Now, you can disrespect your past self, but keep in mind that you're going to be building stuff for your future self in the exact same way. And you should probably develop a decent relationship with your past self and kind of respect your future self. So you've got this baton that you're passing to yourself in the future. So throughout the day, you'll take this to-do concept, this journaling concept, and you have to create something for yourself for tomorrow. So it'll be like on the next page, you're writing down a few, hey, I didn't get a chance to do this. And so you write them down, a few keywords or something like that. You push it off. Maybe it's just like you have some excuse, but the thing is you don't have enough space on a page to give excuses to your future self. So your future self's going to be sitting there reading this going oh, I was pretty lazy yesterday. Past self is so lazy. Okay, so to bring it back to you, Minion. So here's the thing. So we're going to have episode 25 being live tomorrow. And I've moved things a little bit closer together so that I'm able to have the previous show fairly fresh in my mind as I'm doing the current show. So, throughout this show, this is number 26, I can reference 25 pretty easily. It's in my head and it's all this kind of stuff. And so I have an opportunity to listen to it and to take notes as I'm listening to it. Now, you don't really have that opportunity because you're not necessarily listening to the whole thing. You're here, right? So that's the thing. You take to-do notes while they happen to you, which is fine. The trick that has to happen is it has to get from that to the equivalent of short-term memory. So when you wake up, you look at a list and then you build something these are the accomplishments I want to make today. And you might write down, well, today I want to have one thought. Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, this is a goal for you. This is a goal. I gave you notepads. I'm sure you buried them somewhere, and just write down in them. I want to accomplish this one thing. So, quick question, because it's driving me mental. Minion, can you hear my headphones squeak at all when I'm talking?
Not really.
So yes, you can.
No, I actually can't really. I hear like
Okay.
it.
Now I don't want
I
to hear
can
the word
barely
really.
hear it.
So you can hear it.
Fine.
So,
Not that
so
I'm
the
paying attention to it really.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the thing. Okay, so I'm driving myself mental, and I'll fix this during the break, I think. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got on that note, I've got another pair of headphones that I'm getting in. I'll talk about that later. So, what do? I can take these headphones out. Okay. No, I'm not going to do it right now. Okay. So, the idea is you can think of long-term, short-term memory. And you can think of your notepad and your daily tasks as being long-term, short-term. So long-term is not useful right now. It's overwhelming because you probably have a lot of life to live for with a lot of dreams. And that will just balloon as you become more aware of what you like and what you're good at. So it'll expand with all kinds of stuff. And the world just kind of moves on. So, for example, your kitchen is going to get messier every day. And so it's going to be another item that gets put onto your to-do list. Just because you're using it, and that's an inevitability. So you've got this to-do list and it just gets big. So you don't really want to look at it every single day. But what you want to do is you want to have some short list. And maybe you can glance over that short list, and then every day you plan a few things, just a few things. For me, it's 5. But it depends on what you're working on. So I've got projects, I've got archivistic stuff, I've got a history of decades of stuff that I've written or whatnot that I want to go through, that I want to audit, that I want to organize. I've got I've got stuff I want to do. And the thing is, I have so much stuff that I want to do that I need to just decide what stuff I care about today, which is a big problem for me. So for you, Minion, my suggestion would be to write a few things down, and then just quote unquote do it. So, and be reasonable about it. That's why it's such a short list. And then carry the notepad around with you and get used to the idea of, I know your excuse is, well, I need to get the kind of notepad that'll fit in this little thing that can stick a pen in because I don't like having a pen bouncing around. Like, no, like, you can't wait. So the expression is perfect is the enemy of good. And so you have to VHS it because you have to just get something that kind of works well enough that people are okay with it. So you have to get something that's a notepad and pen that work well enough that at least it solves the task. And if it pisses you off every time you use it, then good, because that will motivate you to improve that process later, right? It'll motivate you to. So let's say, for example, it's really annoying for somebody to use like school loose leaf paper because that's all they had. Well, okay, good. And that will motivate you to stop eating junk food and save that money and go buy something nicer later when you can. I mean, it will motivate you, all these nuisances. So like my headphone creak is going to annoy the heck out of me because I'm going to have to listen to this in post. I'm going to regret having all these little clicks. I'm going to learn this lesson for forever and ever again. Okay, well, again, yeah. And I'll enjoy having made fun of my past self for this dumb mistake. Actually, yeah, this is driving me mental. I don't have the break timer listed right now. Things are a little bit weird the way I've got this set up because I never had an opportunity to actually test the way I'm doing things. Okay, so I'm, for the first time, I'm seeing the actual card on the stream. So Minion, you did something. See, you did a thing. So you could actually talk about this thing. Did you like draw lines to get it to all line up? What's your trick?
Nope, freehand.
Really? Okay, That works.
Yeah, you could tell, like, the timers are slightly off-centered. And you know what? Just because of that, let's just leave it for now.
Well, I mean, you do have the ability to edit it live, but it doesn't necessarily matter right now. So, okay, so you see how iterative improvements.
OBS made an update, and actually then changes nice.
Okay, so you remember how I was talking about not updating? Right, so the problem is if you update any piece of software that's critical to you, it might break. And you don't know how it will break. And when it breaks, it'll be when you're using it, and you're using it when you're live. So it's always a bad idea to update unless you have certain security concerns. And the other problem is you and me both, Minion, will probably have to update to make sure that we're both competent at using the tools that we have. Same thing with Audacity, right? Because, I mean, it's not so much of a concern because you're the OBS guy and I'm the Audacity guy, technically, right? And separating things out lets us each specialize. So maybe I just shouldn't care what you do. You do what you do. As long as you keep the installer for the old version, in case something weird happens, you can just reinstall the one you can trust and just keep a history of all the versions that you've had. And so, for example, I'll give you an example with Audacity. So Audacity has this weird problem with auto ducking, which is a muting feature that you can do. And it doesn't let me do it track wide, so it's really annoying. And if I had used this feature before and it had worked before, and it was just this version that had been broken, I could choose to revert back to something a little bit older, and it would work well for me. In my case, I shouldn't/can't because I'm using certain macro functionality now. It's brand new technology. I really like. I look at patch notes. I'm like, oh, I can actually justify upgrading the software rather than big number good, which is why most people do all their updating. It's kind of sad. Okay, so last time I meant to, and it was going to be all cool and stuff because it was really recent quote unquote news, but I let it be, but I'm not going to forget it this time. So I want to talk about, of all things, I want to talk about music. I mean, I understand a tiny bit of certain stuff about the music industry, thanks to some rather revealing articles way back in the day. But I want to talk about this lead balloon band. I think they're really popular with the Stairway to Heaven, I think it's called. Whatever. It's not very popular. And this is a thing that has been going on since the 70s. Now, the actual official, there was a lawsuit in 2014. So this is how long these people took to figure their stuff out. So in 1968, there was, in 1968, there was a band called Spirit. And Spirit, like, you have bands that open for other bands and they tour together and stuff like that. And so it's the same kind of groups that go around. And they might have a different set, so the different order of songs that they play, etc. But they come together. And so there was one dude by the name of Randy California, that's his name, and he's a lead singer for the band Spirit. And Spirit is, it was okay. It was quality enough to go and tour with Led Zeppelin. So they're not nobody. They're not nothing. They're not terrible, right? At the time, at least. And this is 68. Now, the thing is, there's one song that they have it's called Taurus. And it is I'm sure if I listened to it now, I would like it. It would be all groovy and stuff. And the thing is, there was another, and it was a mind-blowing hit. A mind-blowing hit. So, that Led Zeppelin came out with called Stairway to Heaven. That, like, if I played a little bit of it, most people would recognize it. It's an incredibly popular song, whether or not you like it. Okay, so the thing is, when was this? It's like 2014. It's 2014 where, now this is, I'm a little bit confused about this. So it's the actual estate of Randy Wolf, the owner of the lawsuit. So they actually decided to try to act on the idea that when Led Zeppelin was touring with the band Spirit, they heard this song, like a lot of it, and then took elements of that song to make their own. They made a hit, and therefore there needs to be some sort of writing compensation thing that happens. Not from Led Zeppelin to the actual writer, to the writer of this other band's other song, but to the estate of that guy. So what it is it's the estate being greedy and deciding to pursue a big band for something. And Led Zeppelin just went, no. And it's a really good thing because it mattered. It's a very deep problem in music that, well, okay, so we live in a world that is finite. I know there's a lot of people that have a hard time comprehending this idea. So we live in a world that is finite, and there is technically a finite number of songs, number of arrangements, number of instruments, number of tones, number of tricks. Now, it is functionally unlimited-ish. And the thing is, the pushing the boundary between limited and unlimited, this fuzz, you will be pushing it more towards there's a limited number of songs. When you start saying, this song sounds too much like this other song, therefore that similarity, and you're drawing them closer and closer together, rather than having all
I want to interrupt you on this.
Yep.
So, there's a comedian group out there, and they poked fun at, there's a popular tune, and it's called the Four Chord, and a group made a song.
The Four Coordinate group?
Four chord song.
Oh, yeah.
Or and they just take four chords and play it over and over again, but use the artist or band's, how they sing their song, and they just jump from one part to another and so on for about a few minutes. It's quite funny.
Yeah, so what is it, a parody?
Yeah, parody. But they say what I guess would fall under parody. Yeah. But essentially it's all the artists or bands are just using these four chords.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah. So it's like on a banjo. No, not a banjo. What the heck are they? Tiny guitar.
Guitar or ukulele.
Ukulele, that's
on a stringed instrument.
Well, no, because that's the thing. It's like, it's really easy to play a ukulele. All you have to do is know how to play this, and then sing whatever song you like, and just and people demonstrate that, and it's absolutely fascinating. Like, I don't exactly respect the ukulele. I think most people don't, but it does demonstrate that there's a sameness, and it's not just that there's a sameness. There's a sameness in the music we like, which is kind of scary. So, like, we can make arguments like there is cultural baggage or something like that, which is fine. But there are a lot of songs that are just a little similar, and so there is something about the audience that is drawn to certain kinds of music. And I'm saying the audience. And this actually leads into something else I was going to talk about. So I was listening to people in the music industry because I was trying to learn more about audio, trying to learn more about acoustic treatment in rooms and stuff like this. And one guy was doing one of these like old-timey dudes who was talking about audio stuff. That's what he was doing the presentation on. But he had a Q&A, and in the Q&A, like, his presentation was over and the video was only halfway done, so his Q&A was huge. And people would ask him all kinds of stuff because this is the opportunity with this guy to actually ask stuff. Because his presentation was good enough that it covered a lot of the obvious stuff, like that people would ask about the presentation's content itself. So people were asking kind of off the wall stuff. And some really open-ended, dumb questions like, how did you get into the industry and this kind of stuff? If you could name X number of things that it's like, okay, well, one of the things that he was talking about, he was asked what he thinks the definition of pop music is. Now, I personally have always thought of that category as being popular, right? I've always thought that was the short form. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but there is something that's very similar across each, let's call it, generation of music's version of pop. There's something kind of similar. It's not serious. It's a little bit light. It's a little bit all this kind of stuff. And he said that it isn't really something that can be defined as well as people think. But one of the things that kind of makes all kinds of music similar is there is now artificial intelligence that examines the music and does certain audio manipulation. So the post-processing stuff that normally a human would do, the mixing, is now automated. And that automation applied to a number of songs is what those can be categorized as pop, is the application of AI. So he was saying that it's stuff like, if what a normal person would do, like the audio engineer that's manipulating all the different components of a song, they would make what decisions they could with their brain, with their ears, but the AI would actually make certain manipulations at the syllable level and would actually auto-tune in a sense, right? So we have music that would appear to be authentic, right? It's not because there's a huge class of music that's just auto-tuned, weird robotic-y voice stuff that's been manipulated, and that's its style, which, you may or may not like that, but there is music which it's not presented like that, but it is edited like that for an actual album, for the actual release. This is why there's such a difference between stage and like home listening, let's call it, which is a bit of a shame. And it's so when you hear a pop musician and actually hear them live, and if they're good live, it's because they're incredibly talented, because the stuff that you might hear at home has been very heavily manipulated by AI. Literally intelligences via a computer that has manipulated it. And I didn't need to manipulate it very much because they're so talented. And they're talented because they're not being manipulated up on stage most of the time. If you want to know about, lip syncing is a thing. So if you want to know about that, there was a band called Milli Vanilli. It was a pair of brothers. They were very popular, really good music. And the problem is the singer was a dude backstage. So they would sing live, but they would be lip syncing live. And I can't remember the story of how they got caught. It's something dumb like the record skipped. I can't remember. And that caused quite a controversy. It's like, but I don't have a problem with that. I think that's, they were at a fantastic presentation. And it just happens to be that there's a separation. Like, people don't mind that there's a band of 5 people all kind of singing. This is a band of 3 people, and there's the guy that's singing, and just the guy that's singing is shy and is back there. Okay, so your point was, Minion, you talked about the similarity in music as revealed by the ukulele, the dreaded ukulele, foiled. Now, what's interesting is because AI manipulation of music and pop music, that genre, because that exists, it reveals that there is kind of a class of music that has a kind of sameness. So you program certain things, and the AI can manipulate all kinds of songs with that, almost as though all those songs were kind of similar. And which is true. If you've listened to a lot of music, you're going to listen to a lot of pop music and just be like, yeah, this is I've lived long enough and heard enough pop songs. I don't like most of it. That yeah, they're kind of similar. So there's an argument that theoretically there could be a lot of variety, but in reality there's less because our tastes are pretty. We have like our tastes are tunneled somehow. Maybe it's tunneled into these different genres that have appeared, but it's still fairly limited. But the concern is if we admit to ourselves, at an industry level, let's say at a business level, if we start allowing courts to state that music can be similar enough, and we allow that to get more and more fuzzy to make it opinion, like I feel that this song sounds a lot like this other song, and then you use this, so for public domain and stuff like that, you've got concepts of prior art. So if you try to copyright something that you do, it might legitimately be new in your experience, but somebody comes forward and says, prior art, your patent is invalid, your copyright is invalid, and they're run off because they pointed something that happened in the 60s and you didn't know, so stuff falls apart. Like weird things happen in businesses when you just get a little bit too big that people look into stuff. So if this case, this is one of the cases that was really important. There was another case that, who was it? I think it was Metallica or something like this. One of these bands. And the
Queens and Vanilla Ice.
No,
I don't think it was Queens. There's almost Freddie Mercury in it.
really? Well, Vanilla Ice did.
So, yeah, he changed like one little part. Or the popular opinion is he changed one little thing and then
Right.
and it turned into a hit, but the guys that he somewhat took it off of, they didn't really sue him.
Yeah.
And then when somebody ripped Vanilla or copied something off Vanilla Ice, he was almost in litigation happy.
Yeah, I mean.
And then they said, "Oh, wait a second here."
Yeah.
Or Party One said that.
And what half of it is somebody who's small and greedy going after somebody who's big and successful. Not exactly a jealousy thing, but it's an opportunistic thing. And the problem with that is, I don't mind that that's a thing, because sometimes these guys get too big and they're not legitimately getting big. It's because they are stealing from these other guys, and they should be that wrong should be, it just isn't right when some big band makes more money just because they are legally immune from some little guy. So I understand the idea of, there's two concerns. One is you want to make sure that these little guys do have a vector so that they can attack the whales, and that it is okay. But on the other hand, if it's opened up a little bit too much, then everybody's going to lay claim to, oh, well, this was my song when I made a YouTube video of that and it got like 5,000 views, but I know one of them is yours because this song of yours that came out 10 years later sounds like a lot like this. Therefore, give me money. It's like, okay, well, all of these little piranha will start coming after the larger songs. And I wish I could remember off the top of my head. I'm not going to search live. This is what Minion might have been good for in some alternate reality. But it has to do with one song, and it was this concern. It was the exact same concern. And the thing is, it was a solid case, and everybody that looked at it was like, you know what, this little guy is right. That is a ripoff. That is an absolute ripoff of this other song. And but the little guy lost the case because the others had really big, expensive lawyers. And we're talking the United States. So yeah, that's how things work. And the thing is, after the fact, it was discovered that, oh no, by the way, it was from it was like almost directly lifted from this other piece of classical music. So no, they actually don't have claim at all. Like, so the big band, I think the big band countersuit or something weird like that. It's just, it was a mess of stuff just to, when the band is big enough, it isn't necessarily their doing that things happen. It's that they have people on staff whose job it is to play referee, to be bodyguards for this kind of stuff. So a lot of these things can get big, can get blown out of proportion, can get out of hand pretty easily because it's not necessarily the band's. The thing is, it's the band's name and it's the band's brand and stuff like that. And it's more than just the artists that are in the band that have some stake in that. There's a whole lot of people associated with that. That totally reminds me. I can't remember which actor it is, but it's like, I think it's Danny Trejo, and he was asked why he doesn't do his own stunts. So, and he says, I could do some of them maybe, but I don't do any of my stunts because I've got a whole lot of people out here counting on me. And if I get injured, this is a whole lot of people. This is dozens of people whose jobs are affected. And so I'm not going to do that just for maybe some extra money or whatever the heck. And the same kind of happens with when you've got a brand, and when you've got staff, when you own a company, or even you've got stocks or something like that. So like if you're a big company and you're publicly traded, you theoretically could own things, could control things, and could make certain significant changes. But there are other people who are dependent and they matter. So I've made the argument that a business isn't in it for profit. It's in it as the engine of employment for its staff. That the business works for the staff. I made the argument about a business. The best place to be for a business is to be able to fire your clients, to fire your customers, because your staff matter more. So obviously the longevity of the company matters. And so there's a bit of a balance and all this kind of stuff. Why was I going out in that direction? So yeah, okay. Well, I mean, let's just talk about something else rather than me going back to music. So anyhow, that lawsuit failed, and a lot of people were happy because that would threaten a whole lot of different songs, different bands, and a whole lot of different careers. So I'm more or less pleased about that. The problem is that this is American, and it's really it would have gotten really weird because we have, again, with the artificial intelligence, examining songs to determine it's directly for determining infringement. So for example, if like we got hit by that on this show in one of our early episodes, we had it was like 10 seconds of a clip of one song that we were talking about at the time. And it didn't matter because some robot came along and went, nope. And so we had to scrub it out and re-upload it. I mean, nothing was done about it, thankfully. So, I mean, it is there, but there are circumstances where if you are big enough and you make one of these mistakes, some AI will come across, study your stuff, go, hey, this sounds a little bit too much. The mechanics are already in place to judge music very heavily, very easily. And if this legal problem allowed little guys to attack big guys, then these AI-assisted mechanics would be in place to just study absolutely everything. And all of the good popular songs, all the successful songs, they've already been cataloged with this kind of technology in mind. So it would be real easy for people to check against a database of all the popular stuff. There would be an absolute, there would be a field day of going after all this stuff. There'd be a lot of people would be poised to make quite a lot of money off of doing this, even if they were like the legal middlemen with it, making this kind of stuff happen. Yeah, so Minion, you didn't write down anything, so you're not useful as usual. Why am I not surprised? Yeah, okay, so about writing things on to-do lists. So, I mean, have you written that down to prompt you for maybe tomorrow? I don't want you to try to keep things in your head because I don't trust you to. But when I say something on stream, do you clickety clack and take notes?
Most of the time I do.
So should I tell you to write things down if that helps making sure that you will do that? Because I can. Just change my tone to be fatherly, to be masterly.
No, you can, although I don't know if I'll listen.
Yeah, this is a problem. So the other thing to think about is, so for example, we do have one spam bot in chat, and I've mentioned these before because I've noticed these before. You can always look into them, and just keep in mind that never ever associate yourself with somebody that uses something like this, even if they seem popular, even if they make promises. But you can look into what they do, what they offer, how they work, and learn the terms they use, and just go exploring. And again, 15 minutes a day, hopefully longer. But if you look into one of these bots and see what they have to offer, because some of them are like, just join my Discord community and all this kind of stuff. See what that's like, see what's in there. Just keep in mind that you never give them money, never trust them, never anything, because anybody that uses a bot to try to spam that fishes for people, you don't want to associate with that. And I mean, as an ethical thing, yes, but also because they're breaking the rules of, in this case, it would be something like Twitch, but it's going to happen on other platforms too. I don't have a whole lot of time to talk about the other thing that I want to talk about. So, Minion, let's talk about your sleep, because I don't know what's wrong with you. So, like I said about the night owl thing, night owls have the superpower of being able to stay up later. And if you're given too much time, so the Friday to Saturday thing is the decision to stay up a little bit later. And you wake up on Saturday, and now you wake up later on Saturday because you went to bed later. And then you stay up even later. So you wake up on Sunday, like waking up on Sunday, you wake up at 12, right? And so now you're wrecked. You have less of a Sunday. And your Monday, you got to wake up and do stuff. And if you don't have that, so a night owl on a 4-day weekend is just going to be absolutely destroyed by the end of it. So you, Minion, you were like going to bed at 7 in the morning. And then the day after at what? When did you go to sleep last night? This morning?
9:10.
9 or 10 in the morning?
Around sometime between that or close to it.
So it was even worse than the day before.
I think the day before was around 11?
11 a.m.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, because I remember bumping into you when I woke up at like 7. And I even made fun of you. And you said that you were going to sleep. I said, hey, maybe you can stay up later and just figure your stuff up.
That was around 11.
Yourself out.
That was around 11.
Wow. Okay. So I think the only way for a night owl to fix this is either if you're honorable enough to meet your obligations, then your obligations will force you to fix yourself. It's like, oh, I guess today I only have 5 hours of sleep or something like that. And you just get up and you have a wrecked day. And then you go to bed early the next day, right? Which is great because then you can be a morning lark. But not that you can. So the opportunity for you is that you have the superpower of being able to stay up late. So I guess you would go to bed at 1 p.m. the next day and then 3 p.m. the next day. And the thing is, at some point you have to rein it in. At some point you have to not be a night owl anymore. You have to stop staying up later. Like, it's a Buddhist thing. So it's sleep when tired, eat when hungry. So morning, like, okay, so night owls have a problem where they're able to ignore sleep when tired. They're able to power through that. And your life will be less enjoyable. And what you need to do is just recognize when you're actually tired. First off, don't eat. Because so I know what I do I know I'm going to stay up later if I'm hungry and I choose to eat. Now, if I'm hungry and I go to bed, it might be hard for me to get to sleep, and usually it is. But that is something I will know I will have to happen. If I didn't plan my evening out well enough so that I ate at a certain time so that I wouldn't be hungry going to sleep, if I know about that, and if I messed it up anyway, like I chose to eat a different way, I already know ahead of time that I've already wrecked my life and that I've forced myself to stay up later because I've eaten late. Now, I don't know how you work, but you might need to pay attention to what you're doing later at night and develop an evening ritual. And develop an evening ritual and actually stick to it, like properly stick all the way to it, so that I don't care if you have to be tyrannical about it to fix this, and it is a big problem in your life. If you have to set a set of timers, then going to have a shower, and then whatever your evening meal is going to be planned for, cook ahead of time if you have to. Like, stop playing video games and do something else as you're winding down to go to bed. Because something like a game is engaging you way more, and maybe that's what's fueling you, what's giving you adrenaline, or whatever the heck, and that's forcing you to stay up later. You need to get rid of these bad habits, and one of the easy ones is stop talking past midnight. Just stop talking, and I will hear you every single night, always, without fail, without exception. And I can be wearing earplugs, and it's like, stop. So that's something you can work on, is get the timing right, get the scheduling of your evening right, and really enjoy getting into bed. And get into bed at the first opportunity, right? So at the moment you are tired, okay, great. Like, look at the time. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. I guess I could say, no, just go to sleep. Yeah, okay. So you'll wake up at 3 a.m. or something like that. Hey, get up and get out of bed and see what it's like at 3 a.m. Then be up for like a few hours and then go to bed for a little bit, but only for a little bit. And you can do the biphasic thing, because maybe, or you can just go back to sleep and you can have 9 hours of sleep, or however you work, right? So my recommendation is you actually set a schedule, and you just stop the entertainment at a certain time. And you can do something else, like read or something like this, but stop the excitement. Because we've already established, it's not like you have people that you care about that are on at a very specific time, so you have to stay up late. Like, my first World of Warcraft guild was in Hawaii, and the time zone difference was absolutely preposterous. But I got up to go and play because it was really cool. It was an exciting opportunity for me. But that's the only time a person should be really wrecking themselves, is the obligation thing. So I'm going to keep nagging you probably every single day until you figure this nonsense out. And I'll half embarrass you on this show, and we'll see how you progress. Like, maybe I'll set out to see if I can lose weight, and if you can fix your sleep, and I bet I'll beat you. I'll beat you probably pretty handily.
Jeez. All right. So with that, we're going to a break.
Okay, I'll see you guys in 10 minutes.
Well, let's go find something random to talk about.
Well, I'm back. Are you back, Minion?
And I was just about to go to random wiki roulette.
I'm going to take that as a yes.
Wait, you can't hear?
The scene changed.
You can't hear.
Hang on. I might not be able to hear you because of Discord. Now, there we go. Okay, so during the break, what I did is I switched out my monitoring headphones, my like incredibly amateur monitoring headphones for the Bluetooth headphones. It's going to be torture, but it's back the way I was earlier. I did actually order a new pair of headphones. Now, learning about headphones is a little bit interesting. So I had talked about, these are the kinds of headphones that I've been waiting for all my life, really. So they have flat equalizer, and they're meant to do that, to have authentic reproduction of the audio that they're receiving. And this is really important for people that are doing, mixing. And it's really important for people doing monitoring. So for example, right now I'm speaking into a microphone, and my microphone has a monitoring headphone jack. It's a standard little jack, and I would plug headphones directly into it. And the reason it's in directly is to make sure that there is a zero lag, a real-time output from the microphone itself as an audio device, pumping it out into headphones directly without having to go all the way back to a computer through whatever sound systems and then generate it back out from there out into whatever audio device, which generates lag in every case that I've seen. So this is very direct, microphone to your headphones. And a person would need to have a very genuine reproduction of their own voice in order to monitor, to check on how they sound, in order to do multiple takes for doing voiceovers for, commercials or radio or podcasting or ebooks or something like this. Ebooks, audiobooks. And so having a manipulated version of your own voice pumping into your headphones is just the weirdest experience. So the headphones have to be appropriate. The microphone itself might also have to have nuances to make sure that it is particularly, because microphones themselves can have weird stuff built in, so that they essentially have equalizer settings built into the microphone itself, which I'm actually kind of offended now that I understand how this stuff works. I will not go near a microphone that does that kind of thing because it's just wrong. Okay, I'll just dive into that topic. Okay. So here's the thing. There are two kinds of experiences when recording and transmitting audio. Okay, the first is doing it real time, and the second is just spooling it out to disk. And these are different use cases. And the thing is, a lot of these products, they're sold and they're not targeting a particular use case. They're just sold as is. And so a shopper will buy the wrong stuff. Okay, and that's kind of what the seller wants. They just want to sell their product. They don't want people thinking too hard about if they're getting the right one. So again, when you're trying to learn something, you don't get too excited. Make the excitement about learning, and then just keep learning and learning and learning and learning. And then understand that if there's money attached, some of the shopping that you'll do is going to be bad. It's going to be wrong. You're going to make some mistakes, and you just want to make sure that you do it little by little so that your mistakes are small and they're good teaching experiences. And so for microphones get very expensive. Okay, so there are two kinds. Well, there's one kind that is designed to, let's say, filter out background noise, or to gently shape a voice that it receives to make it more clear, quote unquote clear. Okay, these things are important in the live experience because it might go from microphone out to an audience, it might go out to speakers, it might go out to a stream, all this kind of stuff. So it's important to have a microphone and equipment between the voice and the listener that will improve the quality of things as much as possible. Okay, because that's the only opportunity. And the other, it doesn't matter. The other, in fact, it's a lot better to have everything be as dead flat as possible for it to get dumped out into disk, as authentically, as unmanipulated as possible, and for a person to come on after the fact and do the manipulation in software. Because in software, I can make some changes, I can listen, see if it's right for my voice or for the room or for the situation, and then change my mind and apply different changes and do it again and again and again. But if the changes happen at the microphone level or in the equipment between the microphone and the computer, then I can't undo those things. Or it would be very, very hard, require the level of expertise that most people wouldn't have. So it's important to have, just like it's important to have nice flat headphones so you can get an authentic reproduction of things, it becomes important to have a nice flat microphone that won't play pretend like it knows what's best, and so that you get an authentic transmission to disc. Now, some microphones have switches on them that will let you turn this kind of stuff on and off or change the way it is. And maybe that's good. Maybe those microphones would work very well in any circumstance because they're going to do changes that are agreeable to most people. And maybe some of them are made for, the less professional who don't have an ear for any of those kinds of things, or who don't mind or don't know how to do the editing after the fact when it hits the disc. But here's the thing. I don't think any microphone should exist unless it's that's anything other than flat, unless it has certain considerations for noise. And there's some really weird microphones for doing for doing narration or voice work or whatever the heck in like the battlefield kind of thing. This stuff does exist, and maybe this would be important for doing news reporting and traffic and stuff like this. And so that's a little bit different. And there's like some supercardioid stuff that's out. I found a microphone that calls itself hypercardioid, and basically what it means is you have to like chew on the microphone because if you move a little bit, so like I'll demonstrate it right now. So this is me talking head on, and I'm going to move my head over here a little bit to one side. You should hear me drop off. I'm pointing my head right at the microphone now, and you're going to hear me getting a little bit better and a little bit better. And there are some microphones where the fall off in volume or clarity, it just drops right off because that's how it's designed. Okay, fair enough. That is important. But I think that all microphones should be flat because there are ample opportunities for either hardware or software to manage all those tweaks. Now, I disagree with the hardware side of stuff, but if you're live, your microphone doesn't need to do any of the manipulation. It doesn't need to be so smart because I can plug it into equipment that does EQ changes live before it gets out to the listener. And that's easy enough. That's easy enough to do. That hardware exists. It's not, there are reasons to have good quality equipment, and the good quality equipment will also have things like equalizer or other similar features like a rumble. So that would be a high pass filter. And so your microphone doesn't need to know any of that. It doesn't need to be more expensive. It just needs to be really authentic. So why'd I get off on that? Wow. Okay. I have no idea, but I have notes. My mouse has been acting up for like ever since we started this stream. It's been acting up. Like it's so annoying. It's so annoying. I have, because I've recently kind of cleaned up my tech room. I've got like 4 spare mice. Some of them just aren't the right shape for my hand, so I kept them in a box. I'm like, okay, well, this has the right buttons in nearly the right place. It'll be a backup. It'll be a spare. And I didn't run off and pull one of them out because I thought maybe I could just I'd like knock it against my hand, or maybe it's the cable that's pulling on it a little bit, or because I changed some other stuff about the wiring in this desk. So that's always, it's so frustrating. So frustrating. So I want to talk about diet some more. I've talked about it again and again and again, but it's still an interesting topic to me. What I bumped into is the notion of, one person was saying that they had heard of it from Penn Jillette. So he's a Hollywood stage magician, an illusionist, I guess you should say. And he's famous because he's been on TV and he's done a bunch of other stuff, and he's entertaining. He's a really nice guy, And but he was overweight. He was a big guy. He's actually really tall, so he was able to put on a lot of weight without anybody really caring so much. And he didn't mind. He didn't care. He had the shortness of breath and stuff like this, and he didn't mind. But he ended up going on a diet. He ended up going on a diet that was dumb. It was a really stupid idea. He shouldn't have done it, but he did it anyway while he was young enough and he could survive doing something stupid. But he ate nothing but potatoes. He ate nothing but potatoes. And it's not because potatoes are particularly good, but he ate potatoes because they were bland. They were boring. And what that ended up resetting his taste so that he could return from that. So first off, he lost weight. He lost almost a pound a day. Like, well, okay, your body's freaking out and all kinds of bad things are happening. And he kept it up until he lost quite a lot of weight. But then his sense of taste, the notion of the timing of when he eats changed so that he would only eat when he was hungry, as opposed to eating out of habit, snacking a lot, this kind of stuff, which must have plagued him. He was, like 330 or something like that at some point. And that requires quite a lot of effort to keep that weight up. Okay. So after eating really bland and eating as many potatoes as he wanted to at any time, there not being a limit, his body's just like, you know what? I'm not that hungry. And when he came out of that, that stuck. And so that little piece of him, was fixed, was healed. And it takes a childhood of being fed wrong and eating a lot of junk to manipulate a body into becoming like that. And then that momentum stays for forever. And he had that, and he got rid of that. Now I've experienced something similar to that, like when I went on a Soylent diet. Soylent is an engineered, like a meal replacement. And I will look into getting that shipped. I think probably starting next year is when I'll look into that. But I have a bunch of whole food. I've talked about this stuff before. But whole food, I got the stuff that's chocolate. So it's not boring. And I have it that's chocolate because I think that chocolate is also helps my mood. And I'm not doing like... that's not me trying to justify a sweet tooth for chocolate or anything like that. It's I'm pretty sure that's one of the things. So it's like carbohydrates are bad, chocolate's kind of good, and bacon is really good for. I still hate that. What was it? Well, what did I get? Okay, so I was talking about Soylent. There's a whole food equivalent that's just like vanilla. It's just kind of boring. It's not, though. I actually kind of like it. But there's a notion of if you have a one food kind of diet for long enough, then when you pull back a little bit, when you can be hungry enough, or when you can have the space in your digestion to actually try something else, that something else, the potency of it is extraordinary. Corn is sweeter. This kind of stuff, like carrots are surprisingly sweet, all this kind of stuff. Oh, that reminds me. Okay, did you know that carrots are orange for political reasons? Carrots aren't necessarily orange. There's all kinds of colors of carrot. The reason they're orange, the reason that certain carrots were bred out to be orange, and the rest aren't extinct or anything like that. That's just the popular kind that gets sent to everyone. And now everybody thinks that carrots are supposed to be orange now. So the momentum of that is where it's at. So big carrot keeps selling us orange carrots. But it's orange because of the Netherlands. Because the Dutch decided that to kind of honor one of their dudes. The entire orange, like the color orange in the Netherlands, is the weirdest thing to look into, because it's all based on one extraordinarily important historical figure I'm not sure but it was like his color. So a lot of stuff ended up being colored like that to honor him. It wasn't from his insistence. And it really, really stuck. Like, it really stuck. So they've got, yeah, they have entire festivals and stuff like this. So yeah. So carrots are orange because the Dutch are weird. It's always interesting to bump into this stuff. So the potato diet thing, it's not a legit diet. What it is it's just a way of resetting a person's sense of taste so that it is normal, and so they're not hungry based on the constant craving for the entertainment value of food, right? And I've talked about the problem of, life is hard, and people use food as a way of coping, essentially. And there are way better ways of doing it. Like, take all that money, spend it on good sheets. Spend it on good shoes. And those are actually joyous to have when they're good. And you can do that if you've been spending money to cope, and you've been spending money on something as transient as food. Like, that might taste good for a half an hour, and then it's done. But you don't do that. You miss out on, let's say, several days of that, right? Several weeks of that, and then buy a nice pair of shoes, and you get something better for a year. Okay, so it's a better investment. So the potato diet is about resetting taste, and it's dumb. I wouldn't recommend it. But I was looking into that, and people were talking about how potatoes are magical. Like, okay, well, fine, I'll look into this. And the notion of the potato diet, of an actual potato diet, like, these are people who are eating potatoes because that's the thing. It's not like Penn was doing, where he was eating it just as the monofood to bore his to kind of bore his digestion, to change his brain. These other people are eating potatoes legitimately. And the argument is that magic occurs if you boil a potato and then you cool it and then you chill it. And then if you just have that, if you like boil a whole lot of potatoes ahead of time, then eat as many as you want. If you do that, and then you put them in the fridge, and every day you like pull some out, you heat it back up again, you eat it again, the heating, cooling just applies more magic. And yeah, so I'm listening to a doctor that's talking about this stuff. I'm like, okay. And I see another guy, it's another doctor who's bringing this up, and he's countering it, right? But here's the thing. I'm like, okay, well, so I went and I looked it up. So one of so there's a notion called truthiness, and truthiness is just what people agree on. It is the truth. And so you go to Wikipedia and you get truthiness for a lot of stuff. Even if you think it's a scientific point, you're just getting some truthy version of it, because they don't allow experts. Like, they explicitly ban experts from there. So yeah. And they'll check source. They'll have sources, but the sources will be biased. So yeah, it's just truthy bull. Anyhow, so this guy was talking about the mechanics that are happening. So I actually went and looked up the science behind what is happening to starch during these processes. And yes, there is something called resistant starch, which is what people are talking about. Gets made if you handle potatoes, is their case, but other foods can do this. Is when the starch in the potatoes gets heated, and then it gets cooled, and then it gets rapidly cooled, it's chilled, and there's certain temperatures that matter. Then there's like a gelatinization of the starches, and it turns into, and there's actually classifications of different kinds of starch. I think there's 3. And resistant starches are, I don't know, as I didn't look into it very much, but it's interesting to have spent the moment of Wikipedia time that this quote unquote doctor should have. Because to be a doctor, you have to actually like go to school and stuff. So you actually have to know how to like think and learn and research. And apparently he didn't bother. He just made kind of a video and went. Now, his perspective was good though. Okay? His science was bad, but his perspective was both well-intentioned and correct. Because one of the arguments is, well, if the starch becomes resistant starch, then the starch, which is a problem for diabetics, becomes magic, and then you can eat potatoes. Then a diabetic can eat potatoes. Like, no. First off, because diabetes is a problem with insulin production, whatever variety. So there's not the correct amount of insulin present in the body in order to consume the sugars that we take in. Okay, so and carbs is just a hair away from being broken into the sugars that we need. And the thing is, you can do anything you want with the starches, but the carbs are all there. So for a diabetic to eat a potato, they're going to get problems, and the problems aren't going to change just because they've done something with starch. So this doctor was in the right for resisting it. It's just he should have taken a different perspective. His presentation should have been a bit different. Because a lot of people will latch onto one thing that's somewhat wrong, and they'll fixate on that, and that will damage the credibility, the plausibility of a lot of other things that are being said. I mean, sometimes that's the correct thing for a listener to do, and sometimes it isn't. And a lot of people just can't tell the difference. And so if a person walks into a video like that and they've already got their bias, they'll have their aha, gotcha moment when they're listening to some part of an argument, and that part is wrong, it's bad, and it's provably bad. Then they'll latch onto that, and then they'll dismiss the rest, because what they were looking for is some way of affirming their position. So they're tricked by their bias. And so it gets hard for them to listen to the rest that might actually be true, good, well-researched, correct stuff. And this is the case with a lot of things. So, for example, this was YouTube that I was looking at. And one of the problems with YouTube is YouTube used to be a 10-minute limitation. So 10 minutes, and people would need to work for that. These days, I think it's 10 hours. And people make a joke of that with like, this is the B movie, only every time they say B, it gets sped up. And they do that, and it's on loop for 10 hours straight. And it's just, or this is this popular song repeating for 10 hours. And it's, okay, but back in the day, because there was a 10-minute limit, people had to be really concise. This is a powerful tool to force a person to make as few points as possible, as well as possible. So in order to be fast, you gotta stay on point. You can't wander around. And if you want to be effective at all, then you have to be, it's a tightrope to walk that 10 minutes and get everything done. And this guy had, it's like 25 minutes or something like this. So he was able to talk and tell stories, and he was given so much rope with this video that he, for all intents and purposes, for a whole lot of the audience that he should have been helping with this other perspective, he hung himself essentially with that, with having a video that was too long. And there are a lot of speakers that are like that, where you just give them as much time as they want. They'll keep interrupting, so you let them talk, and they just put their foot in their mouth constantly. And but if you force somebody to speak and you only give them a little bit of time, if they're quick mind, quick wit, whatever, then they'll be vicious. They'll be really great for that little bit of time. So you'll see debates that are like that, this kind of stuff. And not that we have proper debates anymore. I think the British are the only people that have debates with a nice, well-structured thing, just because they're strange. Canada has that kind of stuff, but that would be talking about Parliament. And talking about Parliament and debates would be politics, which I don't care to look into that stuff. On to the next thing. Oh, Minion, you were in the kitchen and you talked about the microwave blocking your signal. The earbuds that I have, they do the same thing. That's not surprising, but they didn't do the same thing when I first bought them. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. I haven't changed anything, so it's kind of annoying. But what I did learn,
It's just when you got near the microwave when it was on with those earbuds.
well, that's the thing. I ran specific tests to see if I would have problems with the microwave with these new earbuds, and I didn't. I didn't just not have them. I put my phone and I walked around and I changed positions and I put my phone like right up into the...
That's not how it works.
No, because I had problems with my previous headphones depending on where my phone was. So if I put it on a table and my phone is between me and the headphones, or my headphones are between, right? There are certain things where it would clip out under certain circumstances very predictably, and under others less so. So I figured that out. But for these headphones, no. I figured, I played and I tried to figure it out, and then I did a range check to see, microwave off, and then I left the room kind of thing to see if I could go do other stuff and what the range was. And I tried all that stuff, and the headphones were amazing in the kitchen and adequate elsewhere. Not particularly impressive. And they stopped being like that. I don't know what changed. It's like my Android didn't get an update or anything like that, and I didn't change any settings as far as I could tell. I don't really think there are any settings. But what's fascinating is I can actually hold my hand up to the earbud of mine that's responsible for the Bluetooth component, and I will cut out the music, for example. I could just hold my hand up to my head, or I can lean back in my chair and I can stretch, and my arm interposes itself between my right ear, which is where the reception is, my right ear, and my computer, which is over there. And so I'll actually cut out music when I just try to lean back in my chair and stretch. It's this is just one of those things where if I get better earbuds that have a flat EQ, so they aren't bass boosted, this is one of the things that I'm going to test. Is can I put my phone in my pocket and still hear music? Because I actually can't with my current headphones anymore. Can I stretch? Can I have them near the microwave? This kind of stuff. But of course, it's well past being able to return these, right? The Amazon A to Z guarantee is well over. So they weren't horribly expensive. And I don't consider this one of those learning lessons, because they still work just fine. The learning lesson is finding out that it's bass boosted. And that's absolutely something that burned me really hard, and it forced me to go and research different equalizer apps. And I had one that was great, kind of stopped working because probably have security settings that changed on my phone because I fiddled a lot. But I got it with some other app, and so it's fine. With my desktop, no, I'm not going to use these. And I don't know equalizer settings so for me it's Windows 10. That's actually I briefly looked into it, but it's not, I just haven't been motivated enough to care because I'm not going to use these. Once they come in, I'm going to enjoy wearing the headphones, the monitor headphones that I've got. I hope, man. I decide to buy them anyway, so I'll kind of be poor for a while, which is fine. I need to stop eating junk. So speaking of doing research, one of the things that I've talked about recently is whether or not I want to spend money on another hard drive. And Minion and I have talked about backups and stuff like this. And so I was balancing between whether or not I want to buy, it's called vaulting or offsite data protection. Some people would call it cloud backups, this kind of stuff. And I went, it's a balance between that, which is like a monthly fee or what, it can get weird, or just an outright purchase of a hard drive, which can be quite expensive. They go to 14 terabytes now. And I think they might go to a little bit more, but that's a huge cost up front. And if I do that, then I have to buy a spare of those. So it's really expensive. So I was thinking, okay, well, what solutions are there out there? What services are there that are trustworthy enough that I can go and I can use? Because it would be cheaper to pay $15 a month rather than buy a $300 hard drive times 2. So I went looking and I went looking and I went looking, and I spent a real big chunk of time over 2 days, yesterday and today, because I was just plodding around blindly, not really understanding the topic at all, and until I learned the correct language to describe what I wanted, because what I wanted isn't necessarily obvious. Now, I found companies, they're like complete computer backup solutions. Now, I don't want that. I want I actually tried a couple of these programs. I want one folder, and now everything in that folder I wanted backed up. And I want to go to another computer, and I want to define a target directory that's empty and say synchronize. And the 2 folders on the 2 computers will just be synchronized. The content that changes in that folder will be magically synchronized. And I just want whatever. I don't care about all these other fancy features. I don't care about the rest of my computer being backed up. I have processes in place to do other kinds of backups for my system, but for the cloud computing stuff, I want all the podcasting related audio files, all the data, and soon it's going to be video, and I want that pushed up to a cloud and just managed. And I'll just have like the most recent show data that I'm working with have a copy of that here, and that'll get backed up as I'm working on it, this kind of stuff. It's pretty simple. But the thing is, some services, they're complicated because they want it to be simple. So I got one client running, and it wants to back everything up by default. And I have to go in and I have to manually pick folder after folder after folder to exclude those, which is just ridiculous. And they made this software themselves. They chose this miss feature. And the thing is, you'd think that I'm being annoying, that I'm lazy, but the thing is, I have to go into the configuration, click exclude, get the wrong kind of file browsing dialog from Windows. Like they choose to give me the wrong one. So I actually have to manually unfold this computer and then drive C and then click a folder and then click OK. I can't pick more than one folder with that dialog, and then go back into it and do it again, then go back into it and do it again. And the thing is, if I can't tell if I missed one. And so I can go over to another tab and it builds a list of these are the things we're going to back up. It's like, but I can't see the complete list. So I don't know if I missed a folder or not, and all this kind of stuff. And the interface is so bad. So I sent them an email to ask if I'm missing something. I know what they're going to say because I went looking even harder, and I found their real technical level stuff for like hand editing an XML file and stuff like this, or whatever the heck their configuration is. It's terrible. It's terrible. So I'm probably just not going to use the service because it's really inexpensive. It's $6 Canadian a month. Well, actually, it might be American a month. And it's like 5 terabytes. It's just a preposterous amount of space. But no, like if it's this hard to use, then no. Because it also means if I plug in another drive or something like that, it'll automatically try to back all that up too. Like, no, I don't want to have a drive with several hundred directories on it for me to just go and manually, no, exclude this, exclude this, exclude this. Yeah, what a pain. and went to the next company over, which seems to do what I want. It's a little more expensive, but it's got like I follow its features and it just doesn't seem to actually work. It's just, so I sent them an email like, okay, well, man. But the thing is, I went looking around, you find these, what it is there's paid sponsorship for these blog posts. I've had people approach me for this kind of stuff before. So what it is a company is hired. That company, its job is to understand the market for its client and they do searches to determine where the good search results are. And then they spam the owners of those blogs to make an article that promotes their client. Okay, so I get these spam requests with these form letters from places from these companies saying, oh, hey, I noticed that you have this article talking about this. Would you consider adding a link to that? It's like, I just don't even respond anymore. It's a waste of my time. And then they'll do this follow up and I just ignore that as well. And I don't even cuss them out anymore. I just ignore them. But I collect them just to see the trends because I see templates. It's really hilarious. And so when you do searches online for stuff, you will find those paid for, those sponsored blog posts. And what they are is they're like, oh, these are the top 10 cloud saving. And it happens to be the keywords that you just typed in. So I'm like, what I do, like cloud backups. And if you ever type something like best cloud backups, you're guaranteed to get a whole lot of junk. But I looked at one of these. I'm like, okay, well, so the first thing that happens is, that number one paid for this article. So the winner of that list is the one that paid. But I'll look at them and like, okay, I've heard of that one. I've heard of that one. This is probably junk, but I'll look into it and I'll look into that. And there was a mention in one of these articles about, how do I explain this? So every country has data protection rules that are specific. So data is a concept it's a computer-y concept, but it has to do with, say, healthcare data. So your personal information, your health history, your allergies, right? That knowledge is a different class of information than other knowledge. And other knowledge might be stuff that brushes against your government. And there's certain relationships that happen, and there's your bank is going to be a separate, et cetera, et cetera. So an online store and the relationship with that, with like your order history, that's one class of private. But another class of private that talks about, the operations you've had, or your prescriptions, or, your family history, all this kind of stuff, that is a totally separate. And Canada is very specific about a lot of that stuff, like very, very, and it's recognized to be passable. I wouldn't consider it impressive or anything like that. But it's better than the States for sure. So if there are Americans listening here and you care about certain classes of data protection, hosting it in Canada and getting a lot of these protections, you're probably better off doing that. Yeah. Come give us your business. We're better with it. And don't do New Zealand at all because they're kind of wrecked. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about the specific stuff that I discovered, but I decided to focus on Canadian backups, Canadian data vaulting that, and I pretended to be a business that urgently requires one specific Canadian standard for data protection. And so I searched for that, and I did actually find a company that's like, oh yeah, we're certified for these things in Canada. It's like 4 different big acronyms. I'm like, oh, okay, good. These guys are on board. I know they're going to be quality. Actually, I don't know, but whatever. But it gives me something to look into. So I've got a company in mind that, I haven't made a decision yet, and all of these guys have trials, so I can download the client and see what it's like. And they have knowledge bases, and the thing is, I'm bumping into these companies, and a bunch of these companies have just pulled completely away from doing anything personal. So they're business class only and they're enterprise only. And some of them, one of them, I just want to fake being a business just to get their service because they're good. They're really good. But I know that they just don't want to deal with annoying everyday people. Like everyday people don't give them a whole lot of money and they cost a lot by requiring a lot of technical support. This is why that first company I talked about, their software was like blanket backup everything. And there's no advanced knobs to fiddle with. Not really. It's really obnoxious because they want to cut down on service costs. But well, I'm going to be more expensive because I'm a tech and I want certain stuff. Really, I might just go with Dropbox or Microsoft Azure is another backup solution, stuff like this. Because this isn't my personal data. I have some real serious problems pushing it up to like Google or Microsoft or one of these guys, even hosting with Amazon, because I care about like my privacy. But if it's podcast stuff, it's already publicly available data, technically, right? The audio is, so don't mind. So if it's script data or if it's our Audacity projects or if it's a rendered video, it's not particularly that important. So for it to be dumped into a Dropbox, it's totally doable. So I might still look into that. But I was interested. And as usual, when I'm interested, I cast a much wider net and I learn about the topic and try to understand more. And it's really hilarious. Like I found one company. I decided to keep bookmarks for this. I'm not going to link them because nobody should even look at these companies. And I found one company that's offering offsite backups, and I look at their page. I'm like, okay, it's a little amateury, and I look down and I scroll down and I find a typo. Actually, I find a grammar problem, like a very specific kind of grammar problem that comes from a very specific primary language that isn't English, and I'll just recognize it. And I've talked about the certain kind of person that will fixate on spelling and grammar. I'm one of those people. And so I went, okay. And the big red flag, their landing page, and big alarm rings off. I go, okay, well, squinty look at this page, really suspicious, definitely not gonna do business with them. I look at the bottom of the page, and the bottom of the page has one of these references to the developer of the website. And like, oh. So now I know that they're not legit at all, that they're just garbage. Because that links to some CMS builder. Like, okay, guys, if you can't make your own real, like, grown-up website, I know you're not going to give me a grown-up service at all. So this is from some foreign company trying to, and they were playing pretend like they were a Canadian company providing service for Canadians. It's like, no, they happen to have a shop in some place in Ontario, somewhere. Can't remember offhand, like Markham or Hamilton or something like that. So they have an address, but I know that their staff and their owners and everything are overseas. And I found another website. It's much the same case. I found a typo. I'm like, no, found a typo. No, you're done. But that's interesting that was one of the things that kept me interested in searching. So searching for more and more of this stuff. And I think I found a good backup solution. And when I find it, I'll recommend it. I'll definitely recommend it. Because I have some requirements that are, I'm still enough of a tech that I care about things like end-to-end encryption, all this kind of magic, all the words. But, okay. So I don't know if this is everywhere. So we have a company called Staples. And Staples is an office supply chain. It's very good, actually. And they do all kinds of other stuff, too. But yeah. So they do office supplies. I've ordered stuff from them online, and they're actually remarkably good. Fast shipping, all this kind of stuff. They're no Amazon. They're very specialized. And I learned that they actually provide online backup. And I'm like, the web page that I ended up finding myself on looks like it was made in the 90s. And the service that they're offering is the most overpriced, underperforming nonsense I've seen in so long. It's asking a crazy amount of money for hundreds of megabytes of storage. I'm like, maybe I bumped into this page and it's just old and they forgot to delete it. Like, but first off, this is an office supply store. Come on, guys. You supply... It's called Staples because they sell staplers. Why are they getting into the vaulting business? They do not belong there. They absolutely do not belong there. So I've got whenever I get on one of these projects, I just open I have a folder in my web browser and I drop a whole lot of stuff in there. And so that's why I have many uncounted thousands of bookmarks, because every once in a while I get interested in something. I'm like, oh, I'll look this up. And then I just drop bookmarks in. And I'll come back to it like in 3 years and half of the services are dead. But I mean, some of the research is done. So when I get around to, doing certain things, I will have had my past self will have fiddled around out of boredom of something and will have prepared something for me. So a whole lot of stuff that my present self, would be interested in at any moment. I could just reach in, and my past selves have fiddled with a whole lot of stuff and just been like, hey, well, this is the stuff we discovered back then. And I'll have like a little folder of it and just, clickety click, go through it. It's good. It's good. I really like being able to do that kind of stuff. I have a community of me because I constantly try to take all of these notes. So we're coming up on our second break. We're going to be back in about, 12 minutes now. I'll see you guys soon.
Okay, that could have been done better, but we're back.
Okay, so during the break, I got to fiddle with my microphone a little bit more, kind of clean up how it works. What I probably should have done, instead of ordering these weird parts to have it... to hang it differently so I can plug stuff into the base of the microphone. What I probably should have done is bought a different shock mount. But I don't know why I did it the hard way. But now I have all of these weird adapters. That was one of the things that really killed me early on when I'm trying to figure out like desk clamps and arms and pop filters and shock mounts and all of these different things, trying to understand all this. Nobody was explaining it very well. And I didn't even understand how screws worked. Believe it or not, that was a little education I had to get, thanks to an engineer I know. And so
Wait, what?
I'll totally go there. Okay, so in let's say the camera industry and the audio industry and the lighting and all this kind of stuff, there are certain standards and they kind of articulate some of the things. Like, first off, it's all American. So we're like, this is a 3/4 inch. And I don't understand what any of that means because I'm Canadian. So I pull out my handy dandy tape measure that these days, where is it? It's probably out on my desk somewhere, but it's dark blue on a black desk, so I can't see it. And so there ends up being different kinds of adapters to get these different things to all kind of clamp or screw to one another. And I never quite had the right connections for everything all the time. It was bloody annoying. Oh, I'm telling you. So I'm kind of glad that I got this kit because it's got all kinds of adapters to the various different standards of stuff. It's a little annoying for one of the adapters, but it works. And that's how I was able to, of all things, hang this microphone a little bit lower. And the reason I brought up the engineer thing is it's for something else that I needed to understand threading. So I actually came to him. I'm like, oh, it's over here. One sec. Okay. So what I'm holding in my hand is, it's a clamp that's meant to clamp onto a pole. And on the other side of it, it's for like a light pole. So you've got these boom arms that are meant to hold lights on one end and like sandbags on the other. And so this is a clamp that would go on the arm of the boom. So you can clamp a second thing, not just lights. And it's got another little shaft that you can screw something into. I'm like, okay, well, what I need to do is I need to make this into this other kind of threading so that it fits my, not my microphone, but it fits my shock mount. So like went to my friend, I'm like, I want to do this with it. Can we machine something that does this? And he's like, he helped me understand that threads that there are standards for threads and that there are standards for the sizes. So that if I just get the sizes of a certain way, the threads are going to match because of these industry standards. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. That makes sense now. It gets a lot weirder. I did end up learning more about that stuff because I'm me, but for the adapters between all of this, all of the camera industry and all of the like movies and stuff like that, they all have these different kinds of doodads that they hook on, and they're all really expensive for no particular reason. So I actually, and this is how I was able to get my monitor arm hooked up to a shock mount and clamp a pop filter to it and have this irregular sized microphone hanging down, and all this is, it's kind of dumb and a waste of time. And I'm glad once I figure it all out, I'll give the advice and hopefully like build a shopping list for somebody else to follow in my footsteps. Like, here are the exact things that you want to get, and this is why. And if you want to go shopping for discounts or something like that, at least you'll understand this stuff. And because that's really what I could have used way back when. But, I mean, I have some limitations. Like right now, because I've done tests offline, when I was rearranging some of the way this stuff works, is I wanted to find out if I've got decent isolation, now that I know that word, between my desk and I wanted to know if my shock mount did anything, really, and it does nothing. As far as I can tell, it does absolutely nothing. Like, I mean that literally, nothing. So this is me tapping on my desk. Okay, and I can see my meters jumping around. Wow, okay.
I don't hear a thing.
My Audacity really picked that up. And if I tap just at the base of the desk arm itself,
I could hear that.
And so there's a shock mount in the way, and if I tap a little bit closer, everything kind of wobbles. And if I tap like my independent gooseneck pop filter, it's actually pretty good. I don't even know where I got this from. It came with something else, but it's really good. Untap it. Okay. Now if I tap the actual shock mount, now the thing is, because the shock mount is in two pieces, one is floating and hanging by elastics. So it should be no different from tapping on the arm versus tapping on the shock mount. But this is me tapping on the shock mount. Right? And that gets, I was really gentle there because I know that's going to completely wreck my audio. And if I tap on the actual mic, obviously, right, you can hear a little tappity tap, but I'm not going to persist on that. And due to the magic of audio, I can actually perform limit and compression stuff that will see and correct a lot of this bumpity stuff. So after the fact, people won't be their ears won't bleed because of this stuff. But so it's like, okay, well, it turns out that shock mounts do nothing. Well, who'd have thunk? Because everybody's swearing by them. I don't know why. Because there's supposed to be isolation between the environment and the microphone. The microphone, it would be wonderful. It would just float on air, right? Okay, so, but because I understand more about audio engineering and room treatment and stuff like that, I might actually be able to properly isolate this as long as I don't bump the mic physically. I might be able to isolate this stuff. I would take it off of the desk and I would put it on its own stand. And I still might do that because there's some room related stuff that I'm thinking of doing. If I don't need to stare at my screen, so if I'm doing an audiobook, which, I mean, I have recorded chapter 1 of my own book, I think twice, but I've read it aloud more than once. And it's been rewritten, so it's due for another reading. And this is a great way of making sure that that chapter is just, chapter 1 has to be incredible. It's really important. And speaking it is a great way of understanding how a person is going to speak it in their own head, if that's the type of reader that does that. Those tend to be the slower readers, so they're kind of acting everything out in their head. So as a person reads, there is the equivalent of sounds happening in their head, and you can actually see those centers in their head light up as they're reading. And these are the sorts of people that might be very comfortable. So lipping stuff silently and this kind of stuff, not necessarily when reading either. And I knew one guy, he read, but he read in symbols. I don't even understand what that means. It took me a while to learn to think the way that I do on purpose, because I think I was like that before, but I didn't like it. It wasn't working out for me. So I developed this. So now there is more engagement when I'm reading. I'm an exceptionally slow reader, probably because of this. Well, so, I mean, I don't know how to change the way I think anymore. I'm not going back. Anyhow, this is really useful. Anyhow. Yeah. So, I might be in the market for a new microphone, but I'm not going to be dropping the amount of money I would need to for something reasonable. I'm still researching that as a topic. I'm still curious about how I can push quality while being very budget conscious. And I've been told to really care about my room, to really care about the environment around me. And I think that the technology that let me put up a new curtain in an unusual place, I'm going to use that. I'm going to leverage that. And I'm going to put up some other curtains and use those as sound barriers specifically. And I might do some other interesting stuff to manipulate the area and manufacture myself a little room, essentially, and use that as something like a booth. There are certainly some problems that I've got to deal with here. So right now, like, I'm sitting a little bit closer to the microphone, probably not as close as I should be. I should be up a little closer. That improves quality, and that improves quality because I'm closer, and that means I can turn the gain down a little bit. In this case, I didn't. So I'm being picked up quite well by the microphone. I'm looking at my levels. Yeah, it's not quite as loud as I'd like it to be. But in post, what happens is, because I'm nice and loud in the microphone, because I'm up closer, that means what I should be doing is I should be turning the gain down on the microphone. And that means that I'm kind of turning its receptivity down, and it will hear less of everything, and it will hear less of the background. And because it's doing that, it improves the sound quality that it can hear my voice, because I'm up nice and close. And it's a problem that I've had for a very long time, is not being quite audible enough. And I think I've got one of the original Blue Yetis before they were cool. And I have volume problems with it, so I retired it. I might actually bring that back out and see if it's just my understanding of how audio works, because it's just started getting quiet all of a sudden. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe because I understand how to talk right into the microphone, maybe I should be doing that, and maybe that will work really well if that's the only way I can use that microphone. Maybe that might be a curious thing to pursue. But I did want to talk about a bunch of other stuff for this segment. Minion gave me a great idea for fixing audio levels. I don't know that they actually matter, though. So I've got this concern when doing the audio engineering side of stuff. And the concern is, well, I'm producing something that is going to make it to YouTube, for example. And if a person switches tabs and they're listening, in my listening case is a YouTube video that's a music video. I want the volume level of some other video and the volume level for this podcast to be the same. I don't want them to have to fiddle with the volume of their YouTube player or their system. I want them to be consistent. But what is that? How do I do that? What does that mean? And Minion said, well, why not just take one of those videos, download it or whatever the heck, and then import it into Audacity and compare the waveforms. I'm like, okay, well, wow. That's the first useful idea, I think. Probably not ever, but I can't remember anything else.
I'm gonna go face the corner with a cap on now.
Your dunce cap probably has like a little sweat line on the inside, like one of those baseball caps that's been used all summer. So I could do that. What I ended up doing is it might have been a mistake. I'll listen to it when it goes live tomorrow. So for episode 25, I'll listen to it because I tweaked the audio levels. I changed my mind at one point because I wasn't happy with it. I mean, at one point I made it a maximum of 0.5, a half a dB, until 0. 0 starts clipping and you get these really weird audio artifacts. I can't really hear them as being as big a deal as other people do, but it's bad. So if you ever hear references to stuff being in the red, that is a direct reference in the audio industry for clipping for that problem. And I moved it down to -3 dB as my target high goal. Okay, so here's the problem. Minion is absolutely awful. Absolutely atrocious. So it's a combination of a headset that's meant for gamers. So this is people that have video game sounds going and they're speaking. And so the quality doesn't exactly have to be all that. And so and I've seen some of the sales videos that are pitching these headphones and they're like, yeah, you can talk in a noisy conference hall and all this. And it's like, well, okay, I don't really care because in our particular use case, Minion's in his closet. And so there's not a lot of background sound that's happening. So, I mean, if I had him out from under the stairs and there was some background noise or something like this, then that kind of isolation might matter, but it doesn't. And so the problem is the clarity of the voice. If the boom arm of a microphone is too far away, then there's a drop off that's absolutely ridiculous. And that's kind of the point, right? So you've got a microphone that requires you to be up close. That means that all the sounds from further away are so hard to hear. So that's how all the background noise just kind of fades away. The volume just drops off. This is how these microphones are able to operate in windy conditions or loud conditions, crowds, things like this. But that's not necessary here. And that advantage is actually a disadvantage here because it makes it important for Minion to actually man, have you ever been online with somebody playing a game and they're talking, they're like really far away, and 2 hours later they're like, oops, the boom arm was up because I was eating. So it was up at their forehead. And it's like the joke, it's an actual thing, but the joke is, where are my glasses? I can't find them anywhere. And they're on the guy's forehead. They're just like up there. Like, oh, yeah. So that's the first problem. The second problem is there's this really nasty static that gets introduced, including pops. And they're actual, it's electrics. It's not a plosive pop like from a voice. It's just it's the static shock thing that happens, and that crackle, it happens a lot. Now, not always, but it does happen. And it often happens because I think Minion was unmuting himself at certain circumstances, and that unmuting, as it flips back into being active, there's some sort of problem with the electronics, and it surges into the microphone and wrecks the audio for a moment. So there's the combination of like suddenly Minion is fumbling around and chewing on his mic, and then there's static coming in. Then he kind of says something, and then he's got this problem with volume. And I don't know how to explain it because I've never experienced this before, partly because I don't do a lot of audio engineering. I've only really experienced my voice and then the finished product from other people out there. So the raw audio from Minion, if I were to do a track-wide modification, so let's say normalization, what normalization does is it looks at the audio and it understands the peak, so the very loudest volume, and the very quietest volume, and it raises them all about the same to try to get the peak at a certain level. Right? So you might say, I want to make Minion louder because he's too quiet because of microphone issues, right? And so I'm like, okay, no problem. I just go into editing and I'll turn the volume up. Okay, and so that's kind of simulating the listener turning the volume up. You do that with him, and it takes all the peaks and all of everything else, and it lifts it all up. So the peaks don't clip out past, let's say, 3 dB, minus 3 dB. Okay. And I do that, and it doesn't matter. And I listen to him, and he's still quiet. And like, we'll be talking one after the other. Sometimes, right? If he talks, then you'll hear my voice will be nice and clear, and then his is suddenly quiet. I'm like, but I normalized it the same. Why isn't that working? And the reason that isn't working is because he has these bursts of noise, and sometimes it's mechanical, and sometimes it's just him being like excited that he has something to say. Like, it happens every couple of shows, maybe, if I'm lucky. And then he goes quiet. So it is like lion mouse, and he'll do that at the beginning of talking, and he'll do that mid sentence. And even in some words where he's got just he'll talk, and then he'll just it's just the weirdest, and I don't know how to deal with that. And so there are these, like, really there's these three tools that work together. So there's one thing called a limiter. And what a limiter does is it looks at the loudest part. So you say, well, I want to limit the volume to a certain amount. And then you have to inform that feature. Well, what do you want to do with the parts of the audio that are out above that limit? And you can say, well, no, I just chop it off. Oh, that is absolutely awful audio because you'll end up with all this weird clipping. Okay, so there's another feature which says, okay, don't chop that off, but if it's above, turn that part down. Just take those mountains and pull them down into hills. And so you can do this rather softly or rather aggressively. You can force it so that you do it gently, but nothing is allowed to go over that specified amount. So I can take Minion and I can take his entirety of his voice and just crunch it right down to be about what I think should be average for him, which is less than me because I'm fairly consistent. But because he varies so much, I want to have his loudest parts pulled down to just a little bit above his quietest parts. And I don't know how to automate that. And thankfully, he's more or less consistent track wide. So if he speaks in segment 1 and he speaks in segment 2, those tend to be the same. Now he takes breaks, and if he moves his headset around and his microphone is in a different position, that might matter. Oh man, that's so awful. So I need to put, like, if you've ever seen the movie The Man in the Iron Mask, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. And I need to do that and have the microphone embedded. Like, he doesn't need to have a feeding tube or something like that. And that way the microphone can't be moved at all. It'll just be there, and then it'll be consistent. I could do that. But do we have, I don't know any blacksmiths anymore. It's been a long time. Wow. When was that? Oh, he did aluminum. I guess he did a little bit of, anyhow, yeah. It's probably inconvenient
Wait, I was talking to you about this? I just learned recently about a whitesmith. I didn't think that was a thing.
About a wiresmith?
Whitesmith.
A white smith?
Yeah, they handle like it's like blacksmith but white. And the whitesmiths they just handle aluminum.
Oh, is that what it's called? No, you didn't talk to me about that. Your mind is really easy to read, though.
Okay, it was a friend then.
Yeah, that's
Get out my mind.
such a roomy brain you have. You're not using it anyway. So there are so that was one of the three things. So that's limiting. Now there's something called compression, which is I would think of it as the same as limiting. Limiting only cares about stuff over the limit, but compression just pulls everything down. So when it sees the stuff over that limit, it actually pulls everything down. I think that's how it works. And then there's both normalization and amplification are effectively the same thing for the way I use them. So I just started using amplification. And the idea is that you pull everything up so that the peaks in your entire track will reach that specified value. And you need to do all these things correctly and in the right order. Because the problem with amplification or normalization is if you have one big, like a clap or something like that, a cough, a brush against the mic that peaks your volume to a lot, and you try to quote unquote amplify the entire track, 3 hours later is going to be quiet. And because the entire track gets lifted up, that peak hits the cap, the rest of the track doesn't keep getting louder. So you can actually try to turn up the loudness of a track this way and nothing ever happens. So what you need to do is you need to limit, cut off those peaks, then use compression to kind of massage everything down to a certain kind of level. So you don't get those people that they talk really loud and then quiet and then loud and then quiet. You can actually force that moderation down. Maybe you don't want to do that. I do for Minion. And then you can amplify it all back up again. And I'm just kind of learning that properly. And I think I do have to do track-wide processing very differently for Minion's stuff. And it's just because, it is just awful. It's so awful. I need to have like a Minion. I need to give you a script where you just say a certain sentence or something like this. And I use that as a way of understanding where your voice is going to be. And it may or may not work. I don't know. Hopefully, when you learn how to speak more betterer, then I'll have more samples to actually listen to figure out how to massage all of your speaking in this way. But yeah. So, and this is why I took all this on myself, because it's hard. And so somebody smart has to do it. So it's not you. What things have you been doing lately? I mean, you did this alignment. Have you done anything else have you worked with I gave you the login credentials for this podcasting, hosting RSS feed generator thingy thing. Have you looked at that?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So for our listeners, so what this is I was correct. Podcasting isn't new. Apparently it's fairly popular. And so there is some software that my hosting company provided, which just lets us upload audio tracks and host it to them. And then it generates what is important for different podcast rebroadcasters. So apparently we don't upload to iTunes. We just give it this information. And the information is rather specific to iTunes. But so what? The website software takes care of that for us. And other places we can also point it at our feed and they'll pick it up and make it available to iPhones and stuff like this for their native stuff or for whatever apps understanding podcast feeds and such. And so it is there. I got it installed. I got it running. It's a little bit weird because one of the concerns was I'm like, well, I guess I make a subdomain to test all this on. So it's like something.example.com. Something is a subdomain. And so you can have functionally unlimited of those. So if you only own example.com, that's all you own, that's all you want to pay for, hey, no problem. What you own everything .example.com as well. So you can like create multiple websites. And so I that's what I decided to do. And I looked into it. I'm like, oh, I have unlimited subdomains, so I can just keep doing that. That's sweet. And then I checked. I'm like, well, I've also got unlimited storage space and unlimited bandwidth. And wait, what hosting package did I get from these guys? Because I don't remember negotiating this. Like, Past Self actually talked with these guys rather directly to sort this stuff out. And apparently, I don't know. Like, I don't have any memory. I don't remember negotiating something this good from them. So, okay, shrug. So what I'm probably going to do is pull up maybe I'll migrate all of our domain names. One of mine is going to expire in the next couple of months. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just take them all and I'll abandon my current domain name registrar and I'll pull them into this hosting company. So I have everything under one hood, because if they're going to be this good to me, then I'll give them all my business. Hey, no problem. And so I might do that and then because right now lucidindifference.com is just like a really simple couple of page it's really tiny. And it's just kind of this thing that was provided to me. I don't really care right now. But what I can do is I can take all that, pull that into this hosting package, because I'm allowed unlimited domain names, unlimited subdomain names. Like functionally speaking, nothing is unlimited because we live in a constrained universe and whatever. But that means I can pull that in. I can not just host the audio, I can actually probably host all the videos as well. I wouldn't give the full quality originals or anything like that. But if we like the project files and such wouldn't be, but render it out into whatever the heck format we could, if we wanted to self-host, it could be done. Strangely, I don't know that many people know this, but you can use YouTube as a video backup, site, as a tool for offsite backups. At least you used to be able to. They might have changed. I doubt it. I don't know. So what happens is you upload a video to YouTube. It actually keeps the mint version of what you upload for forever. And it renders out the various versions of the stuff that it wants to provide. But you have the ability to download your original file again. So theoretically speaking, if there's a disaster that happens on your end, you can actually reclaim the full quality versions. So not stuff that was soiled and changed to be whatever weird formats that YouTube demands. Just your original version. So that's kind of nice. But I don't think we need to do anything like that. I don't think we need to host the videos on our own platform, anything like that. But we can do it with audio, and we can do it with the podcasting, with the RSS feed concept. So that stuff is set up, and Minion, you should be damned excited about that, because what that does is that completely eliminates one of the hurdles that you discovered earlier. And that lets you sign up to iTunes. If you say that we can't run tests, that we need to start doing the official stuff like that, and then you need to tell me, do we make it like rss.lucidindifference.com? Do we try to put it at lucidindifference.com? That's probably a bad idea. But I mean, whatever.
If we want to get out there, we can just throw it on a podcast-only site. Or their main focus is on podcasts.
Well, yeah, like iTunes, right? I hear they're popular.
iTunes is... Whenever you mention iTunes, I'm pretty sure people think of music before
podcasting,
movies, or before any other, before any form of entertainment.
Okay, well, that I don't have to care. So this is supposed to be in your lap.
Okay.
So all I can do is the software claims to make the appropriate RSS feed. And so you find whatever service you want and try this and see what happens. See what it's like. Install the client on your phone, or I'll get it on my desktop, or I've got Android. So we can, between us and other people that we know, we can test this out, see what it looks like, and then improve it to make it on par with the competition, so to speak. And again, yeah, barriers gone. So we can actually migrate away from, we can migrate away from the live experience technically, but I like having the fixed time. I like having the live experience, so to speak. I think it's useful. I think it's also nice to have a schedule, but and an audience that might come one day. But I think maybe what we'd have to do is set the podcast up. We can pull it offline for all it matters. The Twitch experience can be shelved, and then once an audience is built via the podcast side of stuff, then we would have the occasional live show. And then if that gets popular, like that's how we would generate the audience, is via podcasting. And the streaming side of stuff would take that audience and bring it, right? So right now we have no opportunity of getting streaming people, not really, because my face isn't up. And your Mexican wrestling mask, I'll totally get. Oh, actually, I do have a spare Halloween mask. We could totally do that. We could have a Halloween special.
No.
No? It's great. It's a jester mask. It looks really good, actually. Like it would look great on camera. And I got another one that actually fits my face. And so this is the one that was trapped in like customs, but in Canada. So it's shipped from Canada to Canada somehow. And it got lost in customs. I got it. And it's fantastic. However, in fiddling with the little ribbons to try to tie it, to try to just prepare the slip knots that I have to do, I actually, the glue was awful, so I pulled one of them off. I knew it was going to happen sooner or later. So I'm going to have to drill holes in it and get it, I don't know, shoelaces or something. I'm still thinking about what I should be doing. I have butcher cord. It's normally meant for like wrapping meat for making a roast, but I've got that. I think I have some elastic stuff. I have zip ties. I'm not going to zip tie. I could zip tie that mask to Minion's head, and then he can't complain anymore. So I can't quite do the...
Not like I have a bunch of sharp objects I can cut around it or anything.
Well, no, I just have to like restrain you. All you have is a microphone, your dunce cap, and your chair.
Well, I don't think you could start the streams, and I'd just be there going,
technicality. Yeah, I guess you don't. I mean, you still eat with your feet, but I guess you can't use the keyboard with one.
I have some power.
You can let it go to your head. You got a lot of space in there. It's okay. So what else is there? So that will be a wonderful improvement to see. A really, really wonderful, a milestone, in fact. And I'd like to see that happen before Halloween. Do you think you can do that? We're going to make ourselves go, maybe get...
Wait, repeat that again?
I want to get us hosted on a podcasting platform by Halloween. That's the goal.
That should be doable because I'm currently in the phase of doing various things instead of just blanking out on days now.
Yeah, but your sleep thing is kind of wrecked, isn't it?
Minus the sleep thing, which is being fixed, because I'm pretty sure what made the issue of me not being able kept delaying my sleep shouldn't be happening as often now.
Because
I think I know the issue. Well, I had bad stomach aches, which forced me to stay, which didn't let me sleep.
Oh.
But I think I know how to reduce it. Or at least not make it happen as often at night.
Okay, so upset stomach disrupts your sleep, so you can't sleep, so you stay up.
Yeah.
Plus being a night owl, right? Okay, so have you discovered why you were getting upset stomachs?
Well, something I ate, but I don't think... that should happen as frequent. I checked everything, and it might have been me storing something improper, and then, but I'm going the extra precaution of making sure things are where they should be, not where I could casually store them.
Okay, so I know that one time you left your cheese out for a long time, and there was the orange juice incident. So who knows?
I'm still sad about that.
No sense crying over spilled orange juice. So yeah, if that sorts itself out, then wonderful. And that will, and the thing is, so just set yourself, I guess your first milestone between now and the next show is identify what podcasting platform you want, and just find one. There doesn't have to be a good reason for it. You don't have to be like, oh, well, I checked out and the audience is, and, due to, and because of growth, and no, I don't need analysis on it. Just pick one. My friend says this is popular. Okay, good enough, whatever. And just pick one. And then maybe in the next show after, you'd upload a test or something like that. And just make it tiny, just tiny steps. Now, 26 episodes in, not including the 7 pre-shows. Like, how long has it been? It's been a long time. Okay, so I'm out of stuff to talk about. I'm so excited to get these new headphones in. I'm probably not going to get them in for next show. Actually, I don't. Maybe I will. No, I doubt it. Okay. I mean, I get some really weird Amazon deliveries sometime where they're super fast. They're suspiciously fast. And I know, because Amazon owns the world now, I'm pretty sure they have like storage facilities that are fairly local. And so for certain popular items or random stuff or returns or I don't know, they have depots. And if your nearest Amazon depot happens to have the stuff you order, it will come from there to you really, really fast, as opposed to waiting for it to come across from the next city over or across the country or China or wherever. So I've bought some common stuff, or I've bought some uncommon stuff that just happened to have been stored. If you're buying stuff that isn't, that doesn't have an expiry date or anything like that, then it might just be stuffed into a warehouse for years, and then you're just the one that comes across and orders it, and okay, well, yeah, that gets sent out. I still have this dozen bottles of this one discontinued dish soap that I want to buy. It's like $75 and I have to get it shipped from the United States. But I'm like, that's actually not a lot of money. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe they discounted it for a reason. It's like, it would be like don't buy old baby powder. The old baby powder has arsenic in it. I'm not joking either. I think I've mentioned this before. That's why they have cornstarch instead now. It's because the talcum powder, the mines or whatever the heck is like next door to something or other, and it's just like, yeah. One angry mom discovered this, so she made a bunch of money. Not like it really matters, because a baby was involved, but it helped the rest of us. And thanks to a random Amazon review comment, I got to learn all this, and then I researched it myself and found the news article and stuff like this. So yeah. So maybe there's a reason that they discontinued this dish soap, but it's like they've got the rest of the lineup. This dish soap just happens to be the unscented kind. So I'm like, I can't really. It must be the same. It's just they added garbage to the other ones to make them stink. So yeah, I'm still thinking about that. So anyhow, I'm pretty much out of stuff to talk about. Why don't we can end this early, unless you want to say stuff, Minion, for once? You want to tell us a story?
No, let's just end it.
Let's,
No, there's only 5. We can just call it.
Yeah, okay. That was a lot of thinking involved. So we're going to have episode 25 coming up. It's going to be uploaded tomorrow. And I have an intro that I made, I clipped together. It's probably a little bit quick. Minion, have you listened to it yet?
I haven't even touched the drive yet. I was going to take care of things after this. On side note of intros, I've been typing every now and then of things to say as an introduction.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's going to be a while before I fully get a good thought process on it.
So you've been writing a script, kind of. Like brainstorming.
I've been writing lines.
Yeah, that's a start. That's the skeleton of things. And I thought that in the meantime, I would just, because I decided to be wacky last show as a way of getting enough material for me to clip something together. And I did that. I made a 6-minute train wreck of an intro video. And I think it works. And I'm telling you, you must upload this. And if you don't like it, tough. You write a better script and we'll do that. No problem. It'll be whatever it's you. So we'll collaborate to make it improved. But when you're ready, that's fine. But in the meantime, you'll have this hanging over your head. And I'm going to embed it into the lucidindifference.com webpage. and I will, that will be the first impression that people have. That's why I made it as weird as it was. So that will be something.
And I'll be fine with it then.
Maybe. Yeah.
This will be fine.
You'll probably upload it first before listening to it. So that was fun to do. So do upload the clips today and then schedule the show for tomorrow if you can do that today. And what I'll do is now our process is going to be I work on the material and it's going to be ready and queued for the next couple of days. And so number 26, today's show on a Sunday is going to be ready for the day after next show. So it's going to be ready for Thursday. It's going to be queued for Thursday. Gives me plenty of time, lets me process it, think about it a little bit the day before, and makes things fresh in my head. It gives me some inspiration. So every single show, the day before, I've thought about this stuff, and every single show, I can say, hey, if you liked this show, episode number 25 is coming up tomorrow. You can watch that. This episode is going to be coming up later. This kind of stuff. I can help. I think it's a good plan. So for you, clips today, schedule a show for tomorrow, and then pass me the hard drive back, and then I'll start my business. I'm getting much faster, much more competent. I'm getting happy with this. Yeah, so plenty of stuff to do. Okay, all of you dear listeners, this has been 2020-10-11, episode 26 for Lucid Indifference. You can find us, look at our clips, look at our other shows at lucidindifference.com. Thanks for listening.